Danielle Spencer was more than just a familiar face on screen. She was an actress, a singer, and a woman who carried both fame and hardship in equal measure. Best remembered for her role as Dee Thomas on the 1970s sitcom What's Happening. Danielle grew up in the public eye, but her story didn't stop when the cameras turned off. Behind the laughter of the show and the nostalgia of reruns was a woman navigating real-life struggles, personal reinventions, and tragedies that shaped who she became. Fans remember her wit and charm as a child star, but few know the full details of her life as an adult. Her quiet home away from Hollywood, the relationships that defined her personal world, the battles she faced with her health, and ultimately the circumstances that led to her passing. Even in death, Danielle Spencer's name sparks curiosity and reflection. What was her life truly like away from the spotlight? Who stood by her side? And what legacy did she leave behind? Today, we're taking you inside Danielle Spencer's story, from her home and partner to the cause of her death and the net worth she left behind. Inside Danielle Spencer's house and personal life. When people think of Danielle Spencer, they often picture the quick-witted little sister Dee from the hit sitcom What's Happening? But behind the fame of that beloved role was a woman who valued privacy and comfort above all else. In her later years, Danielle wasn't the type of celebrity chasing red carpets or mansion tours. Instead, she lived a quieter life, one centered around family, her home, and the personal battles she faced. To truly understand her story, you have to step inside the world she built away from Hollywood, the place where she found peace. Danielle's house was not some flashy Hollywood palace designed to flaunt wealth. Instead, her home reflected who she was, grounded, warm, and unpretentious. Over the years, she made her residence into a space that balanced practicality with personal touches. The walls carried reminders of her past, family photographs, memorabilia from her acting days, and tokens of her second career as a veterinarian. Unlike many child stars who fell into the trap of excess, Danielle lived modestly. Her home wasn't about showing off. It was about creating a safe, comforting environment where she could escape the harsh glare of fame. Friends and those close to her often remarked on how inviting her home felt. There was a simplicity to it, but also a strength. This was the space where she studied, worked, and recovered from some of the hardest moments of her life. Danielle endured several health challenges, including being paralyzed in a near-fatal car accident in 1977. Though she recovered, the injuries caused long-term complications that required her to adapt. Her home became not just a place to live, but a place to heal. It was carefully designed to make her life easier, from practical adjustments for mobility to calming areas where she could rest. Beyond its functionality, Danielle's home also reflected her personality. She loved animals, a passion that guided her toward becoming a veterinarian after her acting career slowed down. For her, pets were more than companions. They were a source of unconditional love. Her home was often filled with the presence of animals, which gave it a sense of warmth and life. Guests might see a dog curled up by the couch or photos of animals she had cared for. This side of her personality often surprised fans who only knew her as the sarcastic sitcom teenager. At home, she was nurturing, dedicated, and deeply connected to her pets. Another important layer of Danielle's personal life was her spirituality. She leaned on faith throughout her struggles and often spoke about prayer and gratitude. In her home, that meant spaces filled with symbols of her beliefs, crosses, scriptures, and small tokens of faith that reminded her to keep going during the hardest days. After all, her life was marked by both triumphs and tragedies, and it was within the walls of her home that she found the strength to face them. Danielle's house also carried echoes of her career. While she had stepped away from acting for long stretches, she never forgot the impact of her early years. In interviews, she often acknowledged how being part of What's Happening shaped her identity. Memorabilia from the show, scripts, photos, and souvenirs had their place in her home. They weren't displayed to impress guests, but rather to remind her of a time that defined her youth. She may not have lived in Hollywood's fast lane, but she carried her history with her in personal, meaningful ways. Her personal life outside of her home was equally layered. Danielle was known for her close ties to family. She carried the memory of her stepfather, actor Tim Pelt, and her mother, who nurtured her career with deep respect. Family remained a priority for her, even as she balanced work and health challenges. Relationships also shaped her world. She had been married before and experienced both the joys and disappointments that come with love. While details of her romantic life were often kept private, Danielle was open about her need for companionship and support, especially during difficult times. Unlike many stars of her era, Danielle avoided the chaos of Hollywood social circles. She wasn't a regular on the party scene or the gossip columns. Instead, she found fulfillment in her quieter pursuits. Her work as a veterinarian gave her purpose, and her home gave her stability. Together, they created a balance that shielded her from the darker sides of fame. When you think about the house of a celebrity, you might imagine luxury pools, sprawling acres, and endless glamour. But Danielle Spencer's home told a different story. It wasn't about luxury, it was about resilience. It was a place where she could retreat after public appearances, where she could heal after health scares, and where she could live without judgment. For someone who grew up in the unforgiving spotlight of child stardom, that kind of sanctuary mattered more than wealth. Her home was also a reflection of the woman she became in her 40s, 50s, and 60s. She wasn't just Dee Thomas anymore. She was Dr. Danielle Spencer, a woman who had reinvented herself, survived life-threatening challenges, and built a career based on compassion. Every corner of her house told that story. The family photos, the pets, the religious symbols, the scripts from her acting days, and the certificates from her veterinary work. In many ways, Danielle's home symbolized her strength. She didn't need Hollywood's validation to feel accomplished. She didn't need extravagance to feel successful. Instead, she needed comfort, connection, and a space that reflected who she truly was beyond the cameras. For fans who only knew her as a witty sitcom star, stepping into her world revealed something deeper. Danielle Spencer was a survivor who valued authenticity over appearances. Her home wasn't just where she lived, it was where she built her life after fame, where she rebuilt herself after tragedy, and where she created the legacy she left behind. It was proof that even child stars who start their lives in the glare of the spotlight can choose a quieter, more meaningful path. And for Danielle, that path began at home. All right, let's expand point 2, Danielle Spencer's partner and personal relationships, into a full 1,100+ word narration, keeping it documentary style, emotional, and engaging for YouTube narration. Danielle Spencer's partner and personal relationships. Danielle Spencer's life was shaped not only by her career and her health struggles, but also by the people she loved. Relationships, romantic, familial, and platonic, played an enormous role in who she became. They provided her with strength during her darkest moments, comfort when the world seemed overwhelming, and companionship in a life that, despite fame, often felt lonely. When you peel back the layers of Danielle's story, what you find is a woman who longed for love, who cherished family, and who leaned on her closest bonds as a source of survival. From the very beginning, Danielle's family set the tone for her life. Born in North Carolina, she moved to Hollywood when she was just a child. Her stepfather, Tim Pelt, was an actor, and her mother supported Danielle's ambitions while protecting her from the harshest edges of the entertainment industry. That family unit gave her a sense of belonging at a time when many child actors struggled. Though she would later face deep personal losses, those early bonds were the foundation of her resilience. Even in adulthood, family remained a pillar for Danielle. She often credited her mother for guiding her through the transition from child stardom into adult life. Her relationship with her family was marked by love, but also by responsibility. As she grew older, she carried the memories and values of those who raised her into every decision she made. Danielle's romantic life became a subject of curiosity for many fans who wondered whether the witty child star had found lasting love. While she was known for being private about her personal affairs, there are key details that help us understand her relationships. For many years, Danielle was married to Gary Fields. The couple tied the knot in the late 1990s, and for a while, Danielle seemed to have found stability. Gary was supportive, and together they shared a life that allowed Danielle to step away from Hollywood's chaos and focus on her other passion, veterinary medicine. Their marriage symbolized the side of Danielle that longed for normalcy, for a life that wasn't dictated by cameras or scripts, but by mutual love and respect. Unfortunately, their relationship didn't last forever. The two eventually divorced, and Danielle returned to being single. Divorce was painful, but for Danielle, it also underscored her independence. She had always been someone who could stand on her own 2 feet, even when life threw her challenges. The end of her marriage didn't mean the end of love for her. It meant learning to love differently, more carefully, and more privately. After her divorce, Danielle kept her personal life largely out of the spotlight. Unlike many celebrities, she didn't parade new partners in front of cameras or make headlines for dating scandals. Instead, she focused on her career as a veterinarian and on maintaining close ties with friends and family. That doesn't mean she didn't date or have romantic connections. It simply means she valued privacy. Danielle often said she preferred companionship over drama. She was drawn to relationships that offered comfort, security, and understanding, rather than ones that were flashy or filled with chaos. By the time she entered her later years, she had grown wiser about the kind of love she wanted. Love that didn't take away from her peace, love that respected her history, and love that allowed her to be fully herself. There were whispers and speculation over the years about whether Danielle had a long-term partner later in life. Some reports suggested she remained close with friends who felt like chosen family. Others hinted at quiet romances, but Danielle never made a spectacle of her private life. In a world obsessed with celebrity gossip, she held on tightly to that part of herself, allowing only those closest to her to know the details. While fans often focus on romantic love, Danielle's story shows just how important friendship was to her. She built strong bonds with people who stood by her side through hospital stays, health scares, and career changes. These friends became her support system, the ones who filled her home with laughter and companionship when life grew heavy. Danielle's friendships often bridged different parts of her world. Some came from her days in the entertainment industry, while others came from her years in veterinary medicine. That balance kept her grounded. Hollywood friends understood the unique pressures of fame, while her colleagues in veterinary care reminded her that she was more than just Dee Thomas. She was Dr. Spencer, a healer and caretaker. Together, these relationships gave her the best of both worlds. Another relationship that shouldn't be overlooked is Danielle's connection with her fans. For decades, people who grew up watching What's Happening felt a special attachment to her. They saw her as the sharp-tongued little sister who always had the best comeback, and many followed her life long after the show ended. Danielle understood that connection and cherished it. She may not have had the largest social media presence compared to modern stars, but she appreciated the love her fans showed her. At conventions, interviews, and appearances, she spoke warmly about the impact the show had, not just on her life, but on audiences who saw themselves in the characters. In many ways, her fans were another form of family, people who supported her long after the spotlight faded. Perhaps what stands out most about Danielle's relationships is how they intertwined with her struggles. When she was paralyzed after her 1977 car accident, it was love. From family, from her partner, from friends, that carried her through. When she lost loved ones, it was those relationships that gave her strength to continue. And when her health challenges resurfaced later in life, it was her inner circle that became her lifeline. Danielle's story is not one of glamorous romances or high-profile flings. It's the story of a woman who valued deep, meaningful connections over shallow attention. Her relationships weren't always perfect. No one's are. But they were real. They sustained her through the chaos of childhood fame, the heartbreak of divorce, and the battles of illness. By the time Danielle passed, her legacy wasn't just about the roles she played or the careers she pursued. It was also about the love she gave and received. Whether through her marriage, her friendships, or her bond with fans, Danielle Spencer built a life where relationships mattered more than riches or fame. For those who knew her personally, she'll be remembered as someone who cared deeply, who laughed easily, and who gave as much love as she longed for. For those who only knew her through the screen, she remains the unforgettable Dee Thomas, but with the added layers of a woman who, behind the scenes, lived for the people who made her life meaningful. Danielle's partner and personal relationships reveal a truth that is often forgotten in celebrity culture. At the end of the day, what matters most isn't the spotlight or the headlines. It's the love you create, the bonds you nurture, and the connections that outlast everything else. That was Danielle Spencer's quiet triumph. Even after heartbreak and loss, she built a life rich in relationships, and that is a legacy worth celebrating. Danielle Spencer's cause of death and net worth. The final chapter of Danielle Spencer's life is one that carries both sadness and reflection. Like so many child stars who lived under the weight of early fame, Danielle's journey was marked by both triumphs and hardships, but her passing forced fans and loved ones alike to look back not just at her career, but at the struggles she faced behind the scenes, struggles that ultimately contributed to her cause of death. Alongside this, her financial legacy, though modest compared to many Hollywood stars, reveals the reality of what happens when someone lives a life built less on wealth and more on resilience. To understand the cause of Danielle Spencer's death, you have to look at the long history of health challenges she endured. Her story was never simple, and much of her later life was spent confronting medical issues that stemmed all the way back to her youth. In 1977, when Danielle was just 12 years old, her life was changed forever in a tragic car accident. She was severely injured, and for a time, she was paralyzed. Although she eventually regained mobility, the trauma of that accident left lasting damage to her spinal cord. Doctors warned that she would likely face complications later in life, and sadly, they were right. As she entered adulthood, those complications began to catch up with her. In her 40s, Danielle underwent major spinal surgery to relieve pressure caused by her old injuries. The procedure was risky, and while it gave her some relief, it also marked the beginning of a series of medical battles. Later, she faced breast cancer, a fight she bravely shared with her fans. She underwent treatment and beat the disease, but the experience left her physically drained. By the time Danielle entered her 60s, her body had endured more than most people could imagine. The long-term effects of her accident, combined with cancer treatments and other health issues, left her vulnerable. It was within this context that her final health crisis emerged. Danielle Spencer passed away in September 2023 at the age of 58. The official cause of death was complications following a coma that stemmed from her long-standing spinal injury. In the weeks leading up to her death, she had been hospitalized after collapsing at her home. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize her, but the damage to her spinal cord, compounded by years of strain on her body, proved too severe. When the news broke, fans around the world were heartbroken. Many had grown up watching her as Dee Thomas on What's Happening, and for them, it felt like losing a member of the family. The headlines reported her passing with somber respect, noting that she had endured decades of health struggles with bravery and grace. Those closest to her emphasized that Danielle had fought until the very end. She had always been a fighter, whether it was learning to walk again after her accident, battling cancer, or pushing forward despite constant pain. Her cause of death wasn't just about the final moments in the hospital, it was about a lifetime of resilience finally meeting its limit. For her family, friends, and fans, Danielle's death was more than just the end of a life. It was a reminder of how fragile and unpredictable life can be. She had survived so much already that many assumed she would continue to endure, no matter what. Losing her felt like losing proof that survival was always possible. But in another sense, her passing also highlighted her incredible strength. Few people could have lived through what Danielle experienced and still built a meaningful life. She didn't allow her accident to define her. She didn't allow cancer to break her. She didn't allow the fading of Hollywood fame to erase her purpose. Even in death, Danielle's legacy is one of persistence and courage. Alongside questions about her health, many people also wondered about Danielle Spencer's net worth at the time of her passing. Unlike some child stars who amassed great fortunes, Danielle's financial picture was more modest. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated to be around $1 million. That figure may surprise those who assume television fame automatically translates into lifelong wealth. The truth is, in the 1970s, child actors weren't paid nearly as much as their modern counterparts. While What's Happening was a beloved show, it didn't make its cast members multimillionaires. Residual payments helped over the years, but they weren't enough to sustain an extravagant lifestyle. Danielle's true wealth came from her second career. After stepping away from acting, she became a veterinarian, a profession that provided stability, a sense of purpose, and steady income. Unlike Hollywood, veterinary medicine didn't make her rich, but it gave her financial independence and a career she loved. For Danielle, that was more valuable than celebrity wealth. She also earned from occasional appearances on talk shows, interviews, and reunion events. Fans of What's Happening never forgot her, and those moments in the spotlight provided both financial support and emotional connection. Still, Danielle's net worth reflected a life lived simply, without extravagance. Her money was tied up in her home, her work, and the modest comforts that mattered to her. Danielle's financial legacy matters not because of the number itself, but because of what it represents. In a world where celebrity culture often glorifies excess, Danielle lived a life that showed success isn't always measured in millions. She didn't have sprawling mansions or luxury cars. What she had was stability, independence, and a career she was proud of. For her fans, that was a powerful reminder that fulfillment doesn't always come from money. It comes from meaning. Her story also shines a light on the realities many former child stars face. Fame fades, and without careful planning, financial security can fade with it. Danielle avoided the pitfalls of many of her peers by building a second career. That decision ensured she had enough to live comfortably, even if she never reached the financial heights of other celebrities. As news of her death spread, tributes poured in from fans, colleagues, and those who had known her personally. They remembered her not just as Dee Thomas, but as a woman who lived with extraordinary courage. They remembered her humor, her honesty, and the way she used her platform to inspire others. Her financial legacy may have been modest, but her impact was immeasurable. The cause of her death may have been tragic, but her life was a testament to resilience. And her home, her relationships, and her career all tell the story of a woman who never stopped fighting, never stopped giving, and never stopped living on her own terms. Danielle Spencer's cause of death reminds us of the fragility of life, but her net worth, both financial and emotional, reminds us of what truly matters. She didn't die a millionaire, but she died a woman who had lived authentically, who had loved deeply, and who had overcome obstacles that would have broken many others. Her story is one of survival, reinvention, and grace. She will always be remembered as Dee Thomas, the sharp-tongued sister on What's Happening. But she should also be remembered as Dr. Danielle Spencer, the veterinarian, the fighter, the survivor. Her passing in 2023 closed a chapter, but her legacy continues to inspire anyone who has ever faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. Danielle Spencer's life reminds us that true wealth is measured not in money, but in courage, love, and the lives we touch along the way. Danielle Spencer's journey proves that fame is fleeting, but resilience endures. From her days as the quick-witted Dee Thomas to her quiet life as a healer and survivor, she showed the world that you don't have to be defined by early stardom. You can choose to build a different legacy. Her story is not just one of loss, but of strength, faith, and the courage to keep reinventing yourself against impossible odds. As we remember Danielle Spencer, let us honor both the laughter she gave us and the battles she fought when no cameras were watching. Her life reminds us that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in how we live, how we love, and how we endure. Thank you for watching. If you found Danielle's story moving, make sure to like this video, share it with others who grew up watching her, and subscribe to our channel for more documentaries that uncover the untold stories behind the stars. Danielle Spencer may be gone, but her legacy, both on screen and beyond, will never be forgotten.